things need to be done at certain times and there is a bit of wiggle room, but if they don't get done at all, that's interesting. For everyone, just be glad that you're not the one who is the emergency, because that's a bad place to be. If you're the emergency, it's a close call. So as long as you can complain, you're in a better position than the person who's got the emergency. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Quality of Life Quest. My name is Anneke. As you may know, I'm a healthcare assistant in a hospital at the emergency department. And last weekend we had it's a royal we. It was me. I had a tough day. And it was a new patient who had an emergency. Emergency in our department means that something has gone wrong whilst the patient was on the ward. It can be a seizure, can be something with the heart, it can be the patient is unresponsive, the patient kind of fallen down, several options there. But when you pull the emergency alarm, then all the doctors and nurses descend on this one patient, and it's interesting. Shall we say that? It's interesting. So all the other patients in that particular bay know that something is going on. We close the curtains around their bedsides so they don't have to witness it all. And for the privacy and dignity for the patient who has the emergency. But of course, the patients in the next bays, other bays, they have no idea what's going on. The only thing they see is that there's no healthcare assistant, or maybe someone pops in their head every now and then, and there's hardly anyone around. Of course, it is the worst for the patient who is in that situation. Horrible if there's an emergency. It's horrible. And then it's not particularly nice for the people who are in that bay. They know something serious is going on. They try to get on with their own lives. Luckily, all three of the other patients had visitors, which is lovely because, they can take their mind off it and at least have a more or less nice visit. For all the other patients, it's an unknown. Then there's the family and friends who are visiting and who want to advocate for their particular patient, which is absolutely amazing if there are people who want to advocate for a patient. However, the reason that there's no one there is because there's an emergency. There is, even though your particular patient or you yourself, if you find yourself in hospital, you're ill, you're unwell, and you're in hospital so that people can keep an eye on you, and more procedures can be done, and more research can be done into what's wrong with you. There's a reason you're there, and you expect there to be nurses and doctors and healthcare assistants. And if they don't show up, then you might wonder what's the point. But there's an order and sequence of things, and the emergency gets priority. That's not because it's a more important person, or it's nothing to do with that. It's just that takes priority, because if we don't do something right there, right then, it can end terribly wrong. And then there's me, all the things that I can't do. This emergency lasted for several hours, and I asked my nurse several times if I could continue with my own work, my other work, or whether she wanted me to stay with the patient. And she wanted me to stay with the patient until the last doctors and nurses had gone, which is fine. It's her decision. So that's absolutely fine. And at times I could be useful, so that was good. For me personally, it also meant all the things I couldn't do, all the care I should have given and I couldn't give. And when this lasts several hours, then it takes a big gap out of the workday, a workday that has a rhythm, has a flow. Things need to be done at certain times, and there is a bit of wiggle room. But if they don't get done at all, that's interesting. So in the end, when the emergency was over and I could get back to my normal tasks, it was dinner time and I had to do the blood sugars for several patients, and then I had to work my way backwards to cover the things that I hadn't done. And when you're then faced with, in the other bay, a patient who calls out for help and had been calling out for some time, that's hard. That's really, I don't know what it is with old people calling out for help, but it's yeah, it gets to me. Not that I could do an awful lot for this patient, as in every now and then go over and see if I could decipher anything else he tried to say. And if I can't decipher it, then, what can I do? Then go down a list of food, drink, and hygiene. And comfort. There was another patient who was longingly looking at his food. He was non-verbal and he couldn't eat by himself. So I decided to start there to feed this particular patient and look after him the best I could. But it was a hard day. It was a really hard day. The morning had gone fine, but the afternoon it was tough. Because the only thing I could see were the things that I hadn't done, the things that I should have done, the things that should be done for patients. And I couldn't do it. And my colleagues were busy with their own patients. I don't know if they had spare time to pop their head around to see the patient in the other bay, but they're busy as well. We're all up to our eyeballs in work, and yes, it's an emergency department, so you can expect things like this. But there isn't a can of extra healthcare assistants, extra nurses, extra doctors you can pull open and voila, there they are. That's not how it works. So it needs to be done by the people who are there, and sometimes things don't get done, and I find that hard. I find that really hard. And what the colleagues say is, well, you can only do what you can do, which is true. I only have one pair of hands and one pair of legs, and I try to work as hard as I can, but everyone's working as hard as they can, and it's, I don't know, there are some basic things that need doing, never mind the things particular for patients, whether that's feeding or trying to decipher what they say, or special things like hourly watching urine output, or hourly watching fluid intake, or hourly doing observations like blood pressure and goodness knows what. If the basics don't get done, then those special things don't get done either. And that's hard. That's hard because that's why they're there. I found it a tough day. I still find it a tough day when I think of it, as you can hear in my voice. It was one of the days I took my work home. That's not good. I should leave my work at work and not take it home. Except for the nice bits, of course. It's good to take nice bits home. I love collecting old people who've got spirit, they've got zest for life. It's very easy, especially on our ward, to become a bit despondent. This county is, the population is very old. The demographic is that there are a lot of old people, and add to that a heat wave, and you've got a nice recipe for lots of urinary tract infections and other things where people can't cope. and end up in hospital. So we've got a fair amount of old people coming in, and they're usually not in the best of ways. So whenever you meet someone who's full of life, despite whatever is wrong with them, I cherish that, and I take those people home with me in the best way. I would like to ask for a bit of compassion. My line manager would say that I need to have compassion for myself. It's hard. That's really hard. Because as I said, I only see the things that I didn't do. But if you're a patient and you know that there's an emergency going on, and I have to say, the other people in the bay, they were fantastic about it. They were really understanding. If you're in another bay, you can ask what's going on, where is everyone? And if they say that there's an emergency going on, please understand that that other person has priority, not because he or she is more important. It's just priority. Something needs to be done right there, right then. If you're family and if you're advocating for your patient, we understand. Please, again, look around you, see what's going on. Check it out. They won't tell you exactly what is going on, but if they tell you that it's an emergency, that should be enough information. That's where everyone is. It's not because we don't want to be with your patient. It's just because that's, it's the nature of the beast. And for everyone, just be glad that you're not the one who is the emergency, because that's a bad place to be. If you're the emergency, it's a close call. So as long as you can complain, you're in a better position than the person who's got the emergency. Right, so on that cheerful note, flipping heck, it was a video that needed to be done, or a podcast, whichever way you are consuming this content. It's not cheerful at all, I know, but this channel is not necessarily about pretty things and easy things. This is also about the other side, the darker side of life, and this is definitely the darker side of life. And they also need to be discussed. They also need to be talked about, because not enough people know about this. So often people come into hospital and it's a shock. It's a shock. I find it amazing how little people know about health and healthcare, and when people are ill, how to look after people, and the cycles of life. And as I said before, this is an old county. The demographic is old, and you would think that people pick things up from family or from friends or from neighbors. People seem to be, I don't know, unaware. Maybe they are so busy with living their lives that they don't pay attention. Even in passing, not necessarily need to be involved, just in passing, how things work, how elderly care works, how sick care works. It's amazing, and it needs to be talked about. And that's not just Great Britain or Herefordshire. It's maybe more a Western thing. I think it is good to be talking about this every now and then. Do I hope to be making a bit more upbeat and nice videos and podcasts? Yes, please. That would be amazing. I can't wait to be doing something about knitting and finding my farm and, starting my my therapy business, and to grow my herbs and, do the work with the people I want to work with. I can't wait for that and take you along on that journey. But lately it's been a lot of misery with my own health and fitness and well-being and all the rest of it, and the things I come across in hospital are not that great at the moment. As you may have listened to some of my rants where I go off on one. Flipping heck, yeah, things happen. I don't even know if I should call it the darker side of life. Maybe you've got a better way of describing it. But it is, the site where people are ill, where people are getting old, where people are actively dying, and it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. People need to be aware of some of the things that are going on, and thank goodness in this case the patient where the who was the emergency, I don't really know how to describe that, but was still alive, not well. you want to say was alive and well. That wasn't the case. Alive, and plans were being made, so that was good. Yeah, I don't know where I wanted to go with that. I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, needs to be talked about, and people need to be aware. Even if it's in passing, this is a short video. If you listen to it, fine, take it on board, but park it somewhere in the back of your brain. And I think that's the wish for a lot of my videos. They may not immediately apply to you. Hopefully it doesn't apply to you, because it would mean that you're in hospital, or you're ill, or something is going not quite to plan. But that you park it somewhere in the back of your head, and that it's available if and when you need it. So I'm going to make myself a cup of tea and put my feet up for a moment. I need that. Empathy towards myself and giving myself grace is hard. Is hard. But I'm learning little steps, one cup of tea at a time. Thank you for listening, and until next time. See you. Bye.